And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new edition of the Daily Debate. In tonight's show, we're going to be talking about the energy sector. Now, President Sisi has mentioned and stated that Egypt will be self-sufficient in natural gas by the year 2020. Also, Egypt is among the top 20 countries that has enough natural gas reserves, production and consumption as well. We're joined here in the studio to shed more light on these issues by Mr. Osama موفق, Deputy of the Energy and Renewable Energy Committee at the Egyptian Junior Business Association. Also, we're joined by Professor Dr. Gamal Al-Qalyoubi, who is the Professor of Petroleum and Energy Engineering. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start our discussion for tonight's episode, let's check out this report regarding Egypt being self-sufficient in natural gas by the year 2020, and we'll be right back.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has affirmed that Egypt will achieve natural gas self-sufficiency and a surplus by June 30th of 2020. Ministry of Oil and Mineral Resources said that Zohr, North Alexandria and Norris gas fields are expected to increase Egypt's natural gas output by 50% in 2018 and by 100% in 2020. For his part, Tariq El-Mullah, the Minister of Oil and Mineral Resources, said the latest gas discoveries mean that in the future Egypt will be able to achieve energy self-sufficiency thanks to the work carried out with their strategic partners such as Eni and BP. Mullah said Egypt would achieve self-sufficiency and become an export country too. He added Egypt's natural gas production would increase from 6 to 6.7 billion cubic feet per day by the end of the year. The minister noted that what Egypt wants to develop through the gas surplus are value-added industries such as the petrochemical products and transformation sectors. Therefore, essentially, it was working in parallel with the development of its industrialization and modernization strategy for the petrochemical sector. The minister said the huge Zohr gas field offshore Egypt has increased its production six-fold since it started production in January this year. He also said Zohr will boost gas production from 1.2 billion cubic feet to 1.7 billion cubic feet a day by August of 2018. He added that with the startup of the Atoll, the North Alexandria and Zohr offshore Mediterranean fields, production should reach close to 5.8 billion cubic feet. He said the increase in production would yield a saving of at least 10% a year in the government's energy import bill, which is currently about $10 billion a year.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Starting off our discussion right away. Now, Dr. موفق, Egypt is clearly going through a natural gas renaissance. Tell us more about the discoveries. Everybody knows about the Zohr gas field discovery, and there are recent also discoveries of natural gas. How is this affecting and shaping Egypt being an energy hub for the coming years?
Of course, Egypt, as far as energy is concerned, is a hub. This is something we've been discussing for long. And Egypt has infrastructure of liquefaction that makes Egypt very special, not only as a consumer, but as an exporter, or to apply. We're going to speak about liquefaction, but about Zohr and different areas like in Shuru area, we have Noor, we have a lot of other fields. Those explorations and actually the production of those happening in a very short time is something very important to achieve, of course, not just self-sufficiency, to make those liquefaction plants work, to make return on investment on these, to have a very good impact on the currency and on our economic situation. So the acceleration that happened in producing from those reservoirs is something that was economically essential to do. And since it is done and done successfully, now we can start gaining the results of that, right? You call it shaping the market. Actually, it was a very essential need, I would say. We had to do that, okay? But the genius is in succeeding in doing that quickly. This is where, this is a special move, right? And since we had to do it and we did it, now it is even attracting more different, like it's making, shedding light on the LNG, for example. Liquefaction of natural gas now is becoming something, right? We're discussing liquefying for other countries. We're discussing the geographical location. So this Zohr production, not only satisfying the need in the market, but just shedding the light on the supply chain of gas, okay? Starting from production to the consumer. This supply chain in Egypt is showing, you know, and also we can now easily express ourselves to the whole world, saying that we have an infrastructure of pipelines and we have the LNG. Now we are speaking about it out loud and attracting other countries to come through Egypt and make value added. So I think this is the most significant effect of Zohr in an answer to your question about the effect on the whole market. And of course the direct effect is more gas that we need. We need for our power plants, we need for our consumers,
yes,
we need for our balance, and we need to keep our own billions of dollars, you know,
yes,
for more essential items.
Definitely. Well, Dr. Qalyoubi, Egypt is self-sufficient in natural gas. What does this mean to the Egyptian citizen, to the Egyptian consumer, and what does it mean to the different industries, the different factories that depend on gas to operate and fulfill its potential in production?
The meaning represented many things. It is not a portion related to the economics of the country itself. It's not also a portion related to the citizen. It's not also a portion related to the future requirement or the international investment, which it's main requirements to improve our philosophy of industry and also our philosophy to improve as an economy and just put our economy in a portion of the open economics. The main portion, which it's representative of our needs, is the portion of the gas as a consumption rate for all the population in daily charge. We consumed almost 6.3 billion cubic feet of the gas per day. That figures out is too much in compared to the international media of consumers or consumption countries in the world. We consider ourselves like 6 or 7 countries, and that figures out across the figure out in the world. At Egypt, that portion is representative of 5 sections. 60% of that consumption value belongs to electricity. We talk about power plants, which it's representative almost 78% of what we're dealing in our turbines in the power plants is dealing with the gas. The second portion is 23%, which it's localized on the heavy industries. We talk about steel industry, we talk about also a portion of cement industry, which is also part of our representative industry, very significant in Egypt. Third, we talk about glass. We talk also about ceramic factories. All that portion is representative 23% of the total gas consumption in daily charge. Third is the petrochemistry in manufacturing, which it's also 11% of total what we consume in daily charge. Addition to that, the fertilizing, which it's an important, it's a portion of consumption rate between 9 to 10%. And the last thing is related to the fuel demonstration, which it's very important for all houses in Egypt. In addition to the part of usage of the car as a gas, as a fluid. That portion is represented between 3 to 5%. So inclusively, what I just tried to classify and give you a division for what we consume in daily charge is representative of a very strong figure out of a gas per day. To achieve that part was not easy very soon. We talk about, it's a very long story, started with 2014. Till that period, even the politics leading institute tried to settled 3 options, the same consequences. The first one, that's you need to import a portion of what you have a shortage in the gas, which it's really affect and defects the power of electricity and get it shortage in all over the Egypt. The second portion is a lot of investment is concentrated for any international countries. The demand base which attracts goods of investors to the countries is the base of the availabilities of the power in energy in that country. And in the portion of Egypt, since 2014, 15, 16, we have suffered too much. And I think this was tackled well with the Presidential Institute that there is no any prevent to deliver that energy to any of investors, specifically the heavy manufacturing in Egypt, and that's a very important portion for that. The last permission, which had been showed in your reports, which Minister of Petroleum had been highlighted well, that we already achieved that self-individual consumptions last week, which started from 1st of October. And this portion, after we got the full power stationaries we have in Zohra land station, capacity up to 2 billion cubic feet per day just came directly from Zohra, which represented inclusively for all daily production in Egypt. We talk about 28% of total production coming from that Zohra. In addition to that, there is a committed 2 projects had been already opened. That's in last March 2017. That one is West Delta North Alexandria. That portions belong to BP British Petroleum, and they already delivered to the nation net almost 500 million of cubic feet per day. Addition to that, also the PP had opened last 2017 in December a project, it's called Atoll. And this project also produced per day almost 350 million cubic feet per day, which is some mission related to British Petroleum introduced and delivered to the nation nets, almost close to 1 billion. In Eni, which is an Italian company, which has contributed a 40% of total inclusive investment in Egypt related to the portion of the gas and also to the oil section, is represented 42%. The portion of Eni in their new mega projects, which is 2 mega projects. First one is Norris, which produced early in 2015 and already puts full capacity in early of 2017, 1.2 billion cubic feet per day. Addition to Zohar is 2 billion cubic feet per day. Total inclusively for Eni, Italian company, 3.2. Just a new version of the gas had been delivered to inclusive or what we produce per day. That's mean a lot to the citizen.
Definitely.
It's additional figure out that we stop importing a liquefied natural gas, which has costed us to pay for that such importing up to $210 million monthly. So consider inclusively per year, we talk about almost $2.6 billion.
Yes. Well, we will be talking about the importing part in a little while, but first off, if we are being self-sufficient now, we are self-sufficient, keeping in mind that we have 3 of the biggest electrical power plants in the world, which will be consuming a lot of gas. Also, we are embarking on administrative capital, the new Mansoura city, the new Alamein city, which will in turn increase the level of consumption of natural gas. Will we still be self-sufficient? The discoveries that we are having now, how is this going to be affected with the emergence of these new cities and these new capitals?
As Professor Gamal, of course, most of the consumption of the breakdown has to do with the industry, right? So all the domestic expansions would not be that significant to be a threat to us going back in the balance, okay? We're talking about producing in more plants like Atoll and Norris and Shuru, and there are more even to be open, new ones. So with this rate of more explorations, we are going to face increase in what we produce, right? I believe the increase is going to always be bigger than the consumption if there's no peak in the consumption of the industry, okay? Which is the main one. However, even if we have a peak in the consumption of the industry, that means we have a push in the industry that is very good for economy, right?
Do we want this peak in industry?
Well, if we have it, that means we have products that we have better GDP. It will compensate. Like let's assume we have it. That means we have a very, very strong industrial movement, hopefully with the optimization of usage of electricity, of course. And this industrial movement is going to have another effect. So there is no problem in an open economy, if I can say, to have a deficiency as long as it is compensated financially somewhere else. Like if we take all the currency back to the financial part, it will balance itself. But as far as domestic expansion, no, the expansion happening in the field of oil and gas, the expansion happening here is a lot more significant than the consumption of domestics.
Yes.
So I think we are safe to have more domestic expansion. Actually, e-gas and the government has a very ambitious plan to make 50 PRMS, which is the pressure reduction and metering station, rising in different cities to have the gas reaching people. This integration of the network is the most important part.
Well, if we are being self-sufficient and we are capable of producing natural gas at a very high rate, does that mean that we will need to have a serious shift or in the way we are dealing with things? For example, will we see more cars now shifting to the use of gas instead of petrol? Will we see different factories instead of using petrol would use gas as a fuel and a source of electricity and energy to operate?
Well, on an industrial level, yes, I wish that gas would be an alternative, because natural gas also has a very clean burning cycle kind of to the environment, so it's significant to use it instead of other fuels. I wouldn't say cars, like in this, since we are in 2018, I would wish for cars to go electrical rather than even going gas. Like, let's go a step ahead. Of course, gas, so also it is safer, it is better. The gas in the electrical production. So it's indirectly using the gas to the car, but through the electrical power that we have an excess of now. Instead of a deficiency. So this is as far as cars are concerned. But industry, yes, moving gas in industry is reliable, because it's a network, it's a factory that can put a strong network, a safe network, and start using it. So I believe better for industry to use gas, and of course domestically it's okay, it's better than the butane we used to use for safety reasons and so on. But cars, I vote for electric.
Yes, definitely. Well, Dr. Qalibi, you've mentioned really reducing the imports of natural gas coming to Egypt, which will in turn really affect the national budget of Egypt. But will this somehow backfire on the companies that are working? Will that mean it will mean more better budget for the country, but will it affect the importing sector in any way?
The most important for us that we need to stop the importing, because to just catch that part is not easy for a liquefied gas, because it's the infrastructures to import need to settle well, like what we did. We settled the infrastructure to be ready as a country to import any shortage of the gas, which it's almost come to 1.6 billion cubic feet per day. That's the figure as of our shortage in the gas. To do that, the government did lots of efforts to just settle the way forward to bring the gas to the country. First, there is fixed contracts for 5 years with Gazprom, the Russian company, and this is a very good one. Deals done between the two governments, which it's already in a spot that the Presidential Institute had been achieved that part successfully, to just carry on any shortage usage of the contract direct with the Gazprom, which is delivered liquefied gas in a 7 up to 13 charge in 5 years, started from 2015. So the gas is arrived to the open area in the water. You cannot deliver directly to the nation needs unless you have a liquefied natural gas, gasified converter, like a shipment, to receive that liquefied gas and convert it to the gaseous states. And this was not so easy, because we have been rented two converters, two shipments. One of that's in Sokhna and the other one in Adabaya ports. Both of them, they are daily charge for us, costed us up $1,000 a day for each one. So to build all that infra base to save any shortage in the gas in even a crisis, in the same parallel, you go for a mega project like Zohr. Zohr was one of the ideal projects in compared to the philosophy of the planning and the exploitation and also budgeting and the executions in a safely way had been successful modeling, had been representative and express how Egypt, whenever dealing in such tough projects, they can fit the purposes in less than 3 years, I figure out, compared to the international deep water projects, mega project, which had been consumed from 8 to 10 years. And to go for that really example and to achieve in northeast Mediterranean areas, which is really critical area, and to achieve that part was encourage all the international investment petroleum companies to come to the Egypt and plan ahead that we have many of a concession near a future. So this portion to achieve it, it's a gift for us, a portion that we stop the importing and we try to convert that part to what the benefit. This only one the deliver solution as to carry on and avoid any shortage in the gas. But in the same time, the country has another strategy and philosophy. The country will go for balancing energy resources. And this is equation is very tough because the equilibrium energy equation to the international countries or very successful economics or the 20G countries, they consider that the equilibrium energy equation is 5 contribution portion supposed to be safe to sustain such economy and give it a good encouragement to continuous without drop or char down peaks. And this is what the Presidential Institute would like to keep. What's happened? There is a plan ahead, had been started 2014, that we shall have 5 different resources of the energy in Egypt. First part, that's we need to achieve the self-individual related to the gas, and this is happening at the portion. The second portion is the domestic fuels, and we talk about the benzene, solar, or diesel, and the domestic fuel, which is called biogas. The fuel domestic gas, that's importing. We're still importing till that's time, and this is we consume or we pay for that almost $220 million per month just to get for plus minus 14,000 ton of the consume rate per day for the Egyptian in different places. So now the country plan ahead to deliver the natural gas and they install all the infrastructure directly to the houses to replace that's domestic fuel which it's costed us. So we talk about natural gas, stop importing. Also plan ahead for the near future to stop also the domestic fuel which we also imported from abroad. The last thing is that in the same parallel, like I said to you, the equilibrium for energy resources equation is that Egypt will concentrate to improve the renewable energy by 30 to 30%, 33% within 2025. Also 13% to 15% of nuclear energy, using the nuclears to produce electricity. Third, also to use a clean coal within 28% up to 30% as a contribution to produce electricity. The last thing is hydro water electricity, which it's coming from some improvement, the performance of the high dam in addition to the small 4 dams, and the new dam, which it's a new Asyut bridge or new Asyut dam, in additional to Aswan 1, Aswan 2 dams, plus Isna and the Naga Hamadi dams. All such dams, which is representative right now, almost be 5
Yes.
with efficiency up to 3,200 megawatts. Addition to that, Egypt's planned already and made already a contract deal directly with China Technology to use the artificial treated drainage water to be usage for the artificial water dams, which is allowed to be given us up to 2,000 megawatt plan ahead in Ataka mountain close to Suez.
Yes.
So all these series of equilibrium energy in Egypt will help to reduce our consumption rate to
Of
the gas
natural
and
gas,
also
yes.
to the oil.
Yes.
And this is very important as a figure future out
Definitely.
to get some trusting for
Yes.
any kind of investment to Egypt.
Yes. Well, Dr. موفق, I need you to explain and clarify the process of actually liquefying the natural gas, because now we understand that Egypt will be a main destination to liquefy natural gas.
Yes.
Also, there's a lot of talk of gas coming from Cyprus, for instance, and other countries that are affiliated or connected to the Zohr gas field.
Yes.
Now, we will be getting gas from other countries
Yes.
to Egypt to liquefy it and then give it back, or are we exporting, or are we actually getting our own natural gas and liquefying it as well and then exporting it? How is this process going to happen?
The liquefaction is a process that is very practical and interesting. It is basically made to minimize the volume of the gas, to make it more shipping
Liquid
friendly,
state,
let me
yes.
call it like that. So we are talking in figures that each 600 meter cube of gas in volume can be 1 meter cube of liquid. This is how far it can go. So this, of course, for crossing oceans and seas, it's a very, very proper way to do it. Otherwise, it's very costly, needs compressors, and not very practical. And we are already lucky. We have currently 2 plants, one in Edco and one in Damietta. Okay, those 2 plants has capability of liquefaction, and actually one of them was completely not working for a while because we did not provide the gas for it. But while Zohr is picking up and we are becoming, as Dr. Gamal mentioned, like a role model in starting in exploration and production, we are attracting more attention to this, right? In Cyprus, for example, a pipeline that it's not just a discussion. I think there are some official contracts between countries that have been signed for a 150 kilometers pipeline. Once this pipeline reaches the shores of Egypt with gas that is owned by Cyprus, this gas is going to get into our network to reach either Damietta or Edco. We have an integrated network that can reach this or that plant to be liquefied. So once we take it, we have value added. We get paid for the liquefaction service, of course, and we help them to export it back in a ship, in containers that can go to other cities all over the world. And this is about feeding Europe. I mean, the main consumer of this integration of Egypt getting pipelines from the eastern side around Sinai, or to get from the north, all this area around the East Mediterranean has potential. And if they all liquefy in Egypt, this is a lot of value added and a lot of income to our economy. And we have also those plants are expandable. Like we can even continue now making phases inside those plants to take them. I have Edco plant currently can make 7 million tons per year, okay, and can go up to 20, right? And the Damietta plant makes 5 million tons per year and can go up to 2 by 5, which is like another 10. So we can expand. We already have the infrastructure. And Europe is the main consumer. Europe is currently dependent on the pipelines coming from Russia. That is 30 years old, okay? So we have a competition here to start. For them, it's more reliability to have different sources. And for us, it's utilization of the infrastructure already done in Egypt. It takes years to do those plants, and this is already there. And so this for Egypt is economically very, very, very important. And I really think that without Zohr, all this push would not, because Zohr is the main project that made an example that we are capable of achieving and delivering. And liquefaction is something that would add to Egypt a lot of benefit. Also, there is no competitors. We have the nearest competitor is in Algeria, very far. So we don't have competitors now. We have to take all the gas in from all the area around us and liquefy. This is an open market of gas, kind of, even to reach. This is very, very important for us. I think it is clear that we need to do it, and we need to expand and sustain our network. And at that level, we are going to have income from gas that is not even ours.
Yes.
So we're talking about minerals of other territories.
Yes.
One of the best utilization to the Egyptian geographical location.
Yes, definitely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Egypt is now considered among the top 20 countries of proved natural gas reserves, production and consumption as well. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.
Egypt is an important country in regards to natural gas, as it is within the top 20 countries globally for proved natural gas reserves, natural gas production and natural gas consumption. More specifically, Egypt has 1,846.3 billion cubic meters of proved natural gas reserves as of 2014. Egypt's natural gas reserves have been aided by discoveries in the Mediterranean Sea, the Nile Delta and the Western Desert. The West Nile Delta, Narus Atoll and Zohra fields were fast-tracked for development by the government and have begun production, providing a substantial increase in Egypt's natural gas supply. According to new forecasts from the Ministry of Oil and Mineral Resources, output from 3 of Egypt's newest natural gas fields will boost the nation's output by 50% and by 100% in 2020. These fields are among the most important projects that will increase natural gas production and contribute to Egypt's natural gas self-sufficiency. By 2019, any Zohra field and the 2 other projects will cause gas production to jump by 4.6 billion cubic feet of gas per day. Narus began production back in September, and late in June, Egypt announced the discovery of a significant gas field off the coast of North Sinai. Noor is said to be the largest in the region, 3 times that of the massive Zohra field discovered in 2015. The story of Zohra dates to 2012, when the field's 15 exploration areas came up for tender. Monitoring revealed that a reservoir was concealed in Block 9 and the decision was made to enter in the fray. In August 2015, Zohra turned out to be a sensational discovery. After a record startup in less than 2.5 years from discovery, production is continuing to ramp up, reaching plateau in 2019. Meanwhile, the Narus field was discovered in July 2015 in the Nile Delta offshore area and put into production in record time. It is currently Eni's main gas-producing field in its Egyptian asset portfolio, as well as an example of the success of the company's integrated model.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Dr. Alyoubi, we were talking right now about how long can we actually keep on producing gas and really excavating natural gas from the Zohra gas field as well. Can you please tell our audience exactly how this calculation is being made and how many years would it mean that we can still pump and extract natural gas from the Zohra gas field?
Okay, let me just give a short notes about what's going to the northeastern Mediterranean. The Eastern Mediterranean area is very wide areas. It's contributed by 7 countries. And in the prospection of the strata across that Mediterranean Sea, there is 2 types of the sedimentary rocks. We have sedimentary areas, which it's representative, a big portion is expanded from the delta of Egypt up to Cyprus boundaries. And this exposed to the northeastern countries up to Lebanon. So in Lebanon, you will find that's also the delta structure, which is representative of our expansion of the delta. That expansion of the delta, we have some formation, which it's a rock contribution, with high vaggy or porous areas can contain big volumes of the gas. That's prospection according to the study of Shell International, plus a combination of many companies had been working in the Mediterranean Sea since 1990. They puts a rough calculation that prospection of the Nile River Delta expansion up to these areas is contributed with a prospection reserve up to 320 billions trillions of cubic feet of the gas. The portion of the Egypt expansion as a cost in front of the Mediterranean Sea, we contribution up to the area of our economy waters, which as per the international water agreement. This is in open seas. That's allowed to us to come up with plus minus 200 trillion cubic feet as a reserve to Egypt. In Zohr specifically, we consider that the volume, as the rough figures have been delivered and already announced, that's the dimension of the reservoir is close to 30 trillion cubic feet with efficiency to produce up to 24 trillion cubic feet. That's prospection for a life to that reservoir up to 15 years plus.
Yes.
This is our rough calculation for how to calculate any reserve.
Yes, and that's only the Zohr gas field.
Yeah, but this is, like I said to you, we have a wide areas. We have 680 kilometers of wide area of north coast. This area started from Arish up to Marsa Matruh. It's a wide distance.
Yes.
In front of the economy water, allowed to us to go with wide area, and this had been classified in different blocks. And this had been delivered also by open tendering to the international companies. We talk about Shell, we talk about Total, we talk about also Russian Gazprom, Eni, also British Petroleum. We have a wide varieties of the international companies that's plan ahead to go for deep water drilling much close to that area. And if you try to represent what's going, now there is a big booming on the Mediterranean Sea pool, and this is in everywhere, for Libya, for Morocco, for Algeria, for Lebanon, for also Syria, also in addition to Israel, and recently also the other side is Greece, and recently also in Cyprus is booming in everywhere, because that's reserve representative in the Middle East, the first reserve in the world.
Yes, definitely. Well, Dr. موفق, if we have such a great reserve, you've mentioned that now we're seriously entering the exporting market of natural gas. We will be exporting our own natural gas. We'll be also working as the middleman, a gateway for countries such as Cyprus as well, exporting their gas through Egypt. And the main destination, the main market is Europe, which will put us in competition, as you've mentioned, with Russia, for instance, and Gazprom. Now, how will we be able to facilitate our gas into Europe, and how will we be able to really sell and really be a strong competitor to Gazprom and Russia, because Europe has been quite dependent on Russia for their gas. How are we going to enter that market? What are we going to offer as a better deal or as a better package than Gazprom?
Yes. At that regard, His Excellency Engineer Tariq Mullah had a lot of media presence lately to express more on details, whether for liquefaction or production. And in that he highlighted a very special aspect, that the presence of the LNG capability of Egypt is allowing other countries even to explore. How's that? A country without much population like ours, without consumers, the investors will not come and explore and drill, because where are they going to get the gas, right? Get the gas and then what? Deliver it to whom? So with Egypt offering the gates open to that. We're talking about the other countries in the East Mediterranean tending to start doing the drill depending on Egypt. Okay? So we are causing even the exploration in the other countries by having our plans. So that means their main plans would be going through us. So this is as far as how much gas can we get in. We have countries that would, once they sign with us, they start doing the exploration based on that. Otherwise, they cannot produce the gas. And going through us, then we have this reliability. If this is very strategic for Europe, and the proof of that is that most of the companies that are helping us to explore are European, right? Because this is strategic for them, right?
Yes.
And not only that, we still have a very big side on the Red Sea. We have Asia has a lot of imports, right? Like in Vietnam and China and all those countries, they import, and they are still a market. Okay? If we have extra, if us with the sister countries and so on, we have an extra of liquefied natural gas, and Europe wants to balance or buy part, we can still export a lot to the eastern side. So this dependency of the countries around us is very intriguing, because this is very, very, very much the best way for us to have a reliable source of gas that is coming to us, because we will be technically the only option for a while, for a long while.
Yes.
Right?
Well, Dr. Qalyoubi, now if we're being blessed with this much of natural gas reserves, how will this affect the petroleum sector and the oil sector here in Egypt? How will this affect our actual imports of oil and petroleum products?
Thinking, well, that's, you know, we, as a country, we representative all the external investment, the main portion for us, because our incomes, as a part of our economics, our incomes is portion of the internal, the external import, the external investment inside the country. A big portion of that one is the petroleum section. Specifically, what's going with the gas, the pumping of the gas, the investment in the gas. Also, the way that we try to deliver and release any obstacles to any such companies come to Egypt. Now we open the mind, and we open the countries, and we open also our orientation for that country companies for what we have planned for areas. We planned for a Mediterranean Sea, and we put everything to the Mediterranean Sea. We talk about reinforcement, I mean the army protection. We talk about the technology of the Navy in that area, which allowed to us to maintain and protect our areas across that's open water. Bearing in your mind also that we have been settled the drawouts of the boundaries in the open waters, like in the Mediterranean Sea, on the other side also in the Red Sea. Those two portions, it's allow and they get a confidence to any international companies that whenever you orient your business to Egypt, everything is settled. Most is stability well, security is high, almost a very good diplomatic relation with all neighbors. We have no conflicts with any neighbors. Also, we're a country with the infrastructure from the basis. Also, we have a plan that's the big portion or the peaks of our pyramids. A president is already oriented and welcoming to sit and discuss with any open discussion with any investors, and they already release everything. In addition to that, and also bearing in your mind that we have two things allowed to improve that such investment in Egypt. The portion is the new the gas market law, which it's a new law allowed to such any investor in Egypt or open factories. They have an abilities and capabilities to deliver a request from the petroleum section in Egypt under the umbrella of Ministry of Petroleum, also under the umbrella of e-gas, that's get a permission to import any shortage of the gas immediately using our infrastructure in advance without no problems. And this is give a trusting. Any business built in Egypt have been settled without no obstruction or without any problems like not what happened in 2014, 2015. I think that's a big portion to give a good trusting and capability that's improve the section of investment in all section, also the section of industrial in general.
Yes.
Third, that's also allowed to improve the small and moderate projects to encourage the local citizens to improve such projects. In the other side, I would like just to hang in a very good portion for that one, that's centralization of Egypt to be a focal, a future focal, like what's had been requested from the energy group manager, Mr. Miguel Arias, who visited Egypt 6 months ago and had been settled a long discussion with Minister of Petroleum and also Prime Minister, that also the European Union looking for importing some gases from the area of the Eastern Mediterranean Sea. And what the plan ahead, you know, the improvement or looking for improvement for some more of importing gas to the Europe, because the development plan ahead each year raised up to 20% over what they consumed in each year. So they have 5 consumptions or 5 resources. Sorry.
Yes.
They have the green stream line, which it's called the Russian streamline, which it's in the south area. This is delivered to Europe countries, up to 9 countries, 38% of the total consumed, of the total consumptions. Another portion is the liquefied gas, which imported from Iran, from Qatar, and the last portion, which represented 40% to all consumption, which is come up from Portugal and Denmark, and Holland. So this contribution is still under problems. If the sanctions had been applied to Iran, it would be a problem for the portion to deliver to Europe. Also, if the sanction had been applied also to Russia, 30% of that portion, it will be also may stop to the 9 countries. What the alternatives? So the alternative now, and this had been requested also, that the plan ahead had been encouraged all the petroleum section companies in Europe, European nationalities, to encourage to come up to the Mediterranean Sea. Second is also encourage all the bankers, banking, to give some attention and supporting as a loan or such of that's investment or studies to Egypt to be a centralization country to localize all the gases from Cyprus, from Israel, from Lebanon in the future, also from Syria in the near future. This will allow to import that such gas converted to liquefied gas or to petrochemistry manufacturing, which is a high productivity.
Yes, well, definitely the future is bright for Egypt. Now, one last question, because we're running out of time. Dr. موفق, you are a strong advocate for environmental and renewable energy. Now, Dr. Qalyoubi mentioned earlier that we're also, we have one of the biggest in the world plants for solar energy and wind energy, and also working on the hydro energy, water energy with the work on the High Dam and also the dam in Asyut. Now, is it looking as bright for the renewable energy sector as well, keeping in mind with all the developments that are taking place with the Nile water file with the Renaissance Dam in Ethiopia?
Actually, the diversity of energy, as Dr. Qalyoubi mentioned, is essential, of course, because reliability is just a product of diversity. And this is a target that the government have been balanced in so much. The achievements in the renewable energy, in the laws and the problems that was facing the investors, and now it is gone. They are working very hard. I think they have a bright future. We have all what it needs. But I would like to ask people that are working, since my own work is in oil and gas, people working on the renewable energy, to get inspired by the people that had this achievement in Zob. I've seen from the hope to reality, there is a grit, there is resilience, there is really an example. I asked you last time to mention them as heroes. I still think so.
Yes.
What happened in the oil and gas, especially in the gas, is really an achievement. Like really, from just ambition to reality, you have to break sweat. and be and have this spirit, which is more important than just the effort.
Yes.
Like we are sitting here and you are worried about the reserve. See, you're not just celebrating what we have and we relax. We're searching for more. This spirit in the petroleum ministry, I want it to be reflected on the ground, on the solar power. They don't have to feel that they are a secondary primary sources.
Definitely, the unsung heroes, and obviously it proved very worthy the time frame that we actually worked on realizing such a dream in the natural gas and the energy sector as well. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this edition of the Daily Debate. But before we go, I'd like to thank our very distinguished guest, Professor Dr. Gamal Qalyoubi, the Professor of Petroleum and Energy Engineering. I'd also like to thank very much Dr. Osama موفق, the Deputy of Energy and Renewable Energy Committee at the Egyptian Junior Business Association. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for more coming up on Night and Samhani Safe. Thank you for joining us.